Champs back again with another quick review, and this is going to be on Capone, starring Tom Hardy, Elena Carlini, and directed by Josh Trank. So I think everybody knows Capone. He's a notorious mobster. He's named a bunch of different things like Scarface, which he didn't like back in the day. If you know a little bit of history, I tell a little bit more when people called him Scarface. In the history books, and people wrote that he was cut by a woman that he disrespected way back in the day, even before he became who he was. But he always lied about how he got those scars. He was kept saying it was war wounds, but he never liked people call him Scarface, but people did. But other than that, if everybody knows about Capone, he was a mobster back in the mid 30s, and he rose to power and did a lot of bad things. He went through prohibition, illegal booze, a lot of things, and kill people, murder, and things like that. So if you know your history and mobsters and gangsters, of course you're gonna know Al Capone. So basically, this movie is about his after he got let go out of prison because he was arrested for tax evasion. The government could never really put anything on him during his tirade, what he was doing illegally. So the only thing he really can do is tax evasion. So they arrested him of that. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison, but he was released early because he wasn't deemed no threat. So he had to go to his home in Florida and stay there. But at that time, he was going through a lot of dementia. He was losing it because when he was younger, he contracted syphilis at a very young age. People say maybe around 15, 12. And even back in the day, syphilis was it could have been treated. If I think he had got a shot or something or took something, he would have been fine. But he never went in and took care of it. So just having that type of situation, having that just kept eating away. And, he gets to this point where, he's just really losing it. He's not remembering anything. He's hallucinating. So this is really just about Capone in the last year, going through, when he left prison, and you can see it's a downgrade, as the days go on and the years go on, he starts losing it, starts seeing things. So that's really the movie is really focusing on. It's focusing on, what he's going through. And as he's losing it, he's starting to regret a lot of things he'd done in the past, what happened and things like that. So that's what you really see, And one thing I could say about this movie is Tom Hardy does a fantastic job of playing Al Capone during his last year on Earth. Seeing, his mannerism, he's changing. And I really think Tom Hardy really embody that. I feel like Tom Hardy really put himself all into this movie. Now we can tell there's a lot of prosthetics and makeup, things like that, but even with that, you can see that he's really really putting himself in this movie. I commend him for that. When he's on the screen, it's very powerful because you can see in his eyes and his mannerisms that he's really losing it. And by the time Al Capone, before he passes away, he had a couple strokes, and his mind was losing it, and he was getting to the age of 12, people were saying, or age of 4, and things like that. So he wasn't able to really take care of himself, and you can see that downgrade. But it's really about this movie about a man that is dwelling on the past of things that he done, and he regrets it, and it's killing him inside. So that's what they're showing, is that he all the things he done, it's eating away inside of him. Even besides the his disease and everything he's having, he also has things that he's done, and that's what I feel like that's what they're trying to show. This movie is not a gun slinging, shoot 'em up, mobsters and things like that. It's none of that. It's really about him, his declining in health, and what he was going through. And I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to be more, in my opinion, more artistically, more trying to be in depth with the person, not just what he's done, but as a real person, what he was going through. I can see what Josh Trank was trying to do, but my opinion, I felt he fell flat because a lot of time this movie got so sour and so slow at times. In this movie, you have a lot of, he sees a lot of things. He has dementia, and I see what he's trying to do. A lot of his things he's seen in his mind was maybe things that he saw in the past or reflecting on himself. And but a lot of times those dream sequences would just pop out of nowhere, which I kind of understand what they're doing with that, because that's how he was. Things would just happen all of a sudden. But I feel like they won't place correctly. It didn't give the movie a balance. It was just really off. You was be doing one thing, then boom, you don't really, certain dream sequence, you really couldn't truly understand what it were referencing to until maybe to after the dream. Now there's some sequences when you're seeing things where you find out why he's having these things. I'll give you an example. He's having this dream. He's being praised because if you know about Capone, he lavished in people adoring him, and he loved the attention. He loved being praised, even though he did a lot of bad things. But you can see that that he's in the he's this party and being treated and things like that. He sees that, then something bad happens. I think that's showing what he wanted, but what he was doing to get to that point. A lot of people died, a lot of people got killed, things like that. Of course, he was accused for the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Look it up. Basically, he was accused of orchestrating the killing of 7 people to gain territory and things like that. But they really could never pin it on him, of course. So there's a lot of things that happened. I like it because I like history. I like knowing things from my past, things like that. But I felt like he in this movie, they didn't give enough of a pass. I felt like if they would have gave a good balance of what he did and him seeing that, him reflecting on it, I feel like they were trying to do that, but they didn't want to do that too much. They wanted to keep it smaller to just him and what he's going through. But my opinion, what this fell off is that if they could have done a lot of things back in the past, like the St. Valentine's murder, or a lot of things that he's done, or show more of him, different stages of his age, when he was a kid, a teenager, in his 20s, became power, when he got married. If they show little flashbacks of that here and there, then have him show that his dementia, showing his past, things like that. I felt like that would have been a better balance, because at times, even though dream sequence, and we understand, just felt flat, it felt boring, and it felt so slow. You want to feel for this person, but you cannot, because he did a lot of bad things. And so I just felt, at times the movie did get kind of boring. It felt stagnant, but I understand what Tom Hardy was trying to do, as he's declining age, you really can't understand what he's saying, things like that. I like that about it, but I felt like this movie just felt very unbalanced. It didn't give enough to convey what he was dreaming about from the past. But other than that, the acting was still really good, by Tom Hardy. And Linda Carlini playing his wife, May, she did a fantastic job. I think she did a good job with what she had to being there for him, because May, Al Capone's wife, she was a devoted woman to him, and always stood by his side and took care of him, things like that. And I felt like Linda Carlini did a good job of conveying that and showing that I'm going to be here for you. I won't take your crap, but I'll be here for you no matter what. And she was till the end. There's little things in here in this movie. As we all know in history, Al Capone, we all know he had one son, but this movie, Josh Trank put in this movie another person. It's not a spoiler. It's some is in the trailers and things like that. But I felt like that fell off too, because you would get confused. Sometimes in the movie you get confused in this movie. And that's why I got confused. I was like, what? I was like, I feel like Josh Trank was trying to be more artsy, more artistic with it to add a little bit more into this, going deep into somebody's mind subconsciously, what they're going through, because we don't know, unless you've been through it, what a person like what Al Capone was going through his dementia phases and things like that. So I feel like a lot of things were overwhelming him, and as he was slowly losing his mind. But like I said, this is not a horror movie, but this is a movie that I feel like, unless you know a lot about Capone, unless you know about his history and things like that, then you will kind of appreciate this movie. But if you're this person if you're a person that's going to try to watch the movie, just jump around in, I feel like you're going to get confused a whole lot. It's going to make you want to look up stuff, things like that, which you shouldn't technically have to. You should just watch a movie and understand it and what it's conveying when you start watching it. But when it doesn't give you enough of that to balance out the dream sequences and things that he was going through, then I feel like that's going to fall off. But this is not a bad movie. But it's not an awesome movie. It's a movie that I feel like you need to know some things about him to understand what's happening, and they don't give you enough of a flashbacks to correspond with the dream sequence. If they did more with the flashbacks, showing some things that he was doing, then have a dream sequence of he's feeling guilt, I feel like that would have been a better balance. But it really doesn't do that. So you just left on your own accord, assuming or trying wondering things like that. Unless you know about Capone. If you don't know a lot about Capone or his history, things like that, and I feel like you're going to be confused and a little frustrated about this movie. You'll appreciate the acting, but how the story was conveyed to you, how the story was balanced, things like that, not so well. It's good shots. It's editing for what it was. But I don't know. Only people I can recommend the movie to is people that know about the history of Capone, know what he done and stuff like that, know the history. Then you will kind of appreciate this movie. But if not, if you're not really familiar with that, I wouldn't jump in this movie because you're gonna get frustrated. So all in all, I give Capone or Fonzo, because it was named Fonzo, but they changed it to Capone. I give it 2.5 out of 5. I feel like they could have done a lot more for this movie, but I feel like it fell flat at sometimes. If you've seen this movie, leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe, share, and like this video. Turn on notifications so you can see my next review. Tomorrow's Friday, so we'll have a flashback Friday, and it's gonna be on Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man from 2002. We watched that. I enjoyed it. That'll be dropping tomorrow for a flashback Friday. Until we meet again, guys. You have a nice day.